Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Soul Seekers podcast, where we believe that hunting has the power to transform lives through primal adventure as we share our mission of mentorship is conservation. To learn more about everything we do, check out our show on Carbontv or go to soulseekersnation.com. Freedom on, everybody, and stay soulful. This podcast is proud to be brought to you by the Crazy Elk Company. Go to crazyoutcompany.com to pick up yourself a tag wallet, custom kill kit, or one of their e-tag systems to throw in your pack this coming hunting season. Use the code SOULFUL with a capital S to save 20% at checkout. This podcast is also proudly brought to you by OnX Hunt. When I first got into hunting, I kept hearing all about public land and different access and how to find different locations to hunt. I was like, well, how are people even identifying all this stuff? Well, sure enough, I came across the #1 hunting GPS app, and that is OnX Hunt. If you guys want to get better at hunting and go deeper into your scouting, OnX Hunt is the #1 GPS app for that. Join the millions of hunters who trust OnX Hunt to find more game, discover new access, and hunt smarter. It was a game changer for me, and I know it's going to be a game changer for you if you've never used it. If you have used it, you know the power that it holds. Guys, I really hope you enjoy this episode. If you want to know more about OnX, go to onxmaps.com/hunt and check out their app. Be blessed, freedom on, and stay soulful. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Soul Seekers Podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack, and today I am joined by a fellow just badass hunter, an amazing individual, a father, a husband, and a warrior. My man, Dylan from OnX is here. He's going to be talking all about his savage, killing spree that he went on this fall, where he filled almost every single tag, I believe. And we're going to talk all about his successes and how that went. And then along with that, we're going to be diving into OnX Hunt and their app and everything that comes along when you sign up and become a member, which huge proponent of OnX. They are a sponsor of this podcast and everything that we do at Soul Seekers, and just really, really love supporting them as they have supported us. So without further ado, Dylan, what's up, brother? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. That was quite the intro. You're making me sound a lot cooler than what I actually am, but I appreciate it. You're a good hype man.
Dude, that's the DJ in me, right? Like, you got to work that crowd. You got to build that energy. Like, that tsunami's coming and it's time to ride that wave. Yeah, man. I'm a hype man. I'm going to give a little story. I don't know if I've ever shared this on the podcast before, but I figured, why not? In my first couple years of school teaching, I was like 23, 24 years old. I was coaching, I was DJing, I was doing a lot of different stuff. Well, my principal at the time, at the end of the year school assembly with parents that were there, like awards assembly, she asked all the teachers what they wanted to be when they grew up. Like, it was a play on, the whole, what do you want to do when you grow up? So everyone's like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. And I told her I wanted to be a professional party starter. And she's from New York and has a heavy New York accent. And apparently, I stepped out of the gymnasium during that time because I had to go get the dance ready because I was DJing the after party dance. And everyone came up, and I had parents come up to me, and they're like, so you want to be a professional porn star? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, so my principal made it sound like I wanted to be a porn star in front of the entire middle school and their parents. And
Instead of a parties, I could see where that would. Yeah, that's not great information to misconstrue, but that's his life.
such is life. I mean, hey, cool. Anyways, yeah, so that party starter. I wanted to be a professional party starter, and here I am, approaching closer to 40 than anything else. And then you say that, and I'm like, okay, then I'm living out the creed of
You made it.
yes, I've made it to where I wanted to be. Brother, you absolutely slayed it this year. Slayed it. Are you just that good of a hunter, or are you just like?
Man, it was a good year. It everything seemed to fall in place. There was some changes. So I was born and raised in Montana, still live here. I've done some out of state hunts. I did one this year. I know we'll touch on, but there's just a lot of opportunity in Montana. This year, there's some major changes though for me. So Montana, growing up and how it's always historically been, you can apply for a permit to hunt a special unit or conglomerate of units for elk, say for example. But then you can still also historically hunt general, which is the rest of the state essentially. This year they changed it up. So if you drew a permit in Montana, you could only hunt there. So what I would typically do and what I did this year that are really honestly easy to get as a resident, it's like 90 to 100%, I would say, for some of these units. So they're a little bit better, but it's nothing like crazy different. But again, historically, what I'd do is I'd get one of those permits and then still hunt general closer to home, do the whole weekend warrior thing. And then if I hadn't filled a tag, go to my permit unit for a week or week and a half, whatever it took. So this year it changed. And so I drew that permit and I could only hunt elk in that specific game management unit,
What unit?
which is
Just
like
kidding.
8 hour. Yeah, you probably saw that look on my face.
Right.
It's quite a drive from my home though, so you can't really do the whole weekend warrior. It's opening weekend, so I'm going to get out for 3 days type deal. So went into this elk season honestly a little bit nervous because I knew my hunt days, quote unquote, were going to get cut down from, I don't know, you add up the weekends and stuff, like 15, 20 days to maybe 6 or 7. So I was a little bit nervous, but it all worked out and I actually ended up shooting my bull on the first morning of being over there. Everything just, it was one of those mornings that everything worked so perfectly. And after it all happened, you're like, how did this not happen? How did that cow not win me? How did the like everything just worked perfectly? And then actually after that, it was pretty tough. I stayed over there, and for the next like 4 days, we couldn't really turn up any elk. So I was very, very happy that I capitalized on that first morning of being over there after seeing the next 4 or 5 days.
Well, it just goes to show, man, don't pass up on a legal animal. But for all of you listeners who are like, well, how big was this bull that he shot? That was 7 by 6? Is that what it ended up
Yeah,
being?
he was 6 by 7. Yep. Yeah, he was a super nice bull. Honestly, I didn't even really know. I knew he was like a definite shooter, and I'm not picky by any means. Like I've passed up a couple of bulls in my lifetime with a bow. Um, and I honestly, being the first morning, if he was like a really small bull, like a really small raghorn or something, being the first morning there, I probably wouldn't have shot him, but who knows? He could have stepped out and I, would have got really excited and shot him. But long story short, I didn't know exactly what caliber of bull he was, but I knew he was one that I definitely wanted to shoot, even if it was the first day of the hunt over there. And yeah, he grew as I walked up on him. That's for sure.
Did he end up being bigger than your Colorado bull? Or
No, so that other one you're thinking of was Montana as well. But that bull was a little bit bigger. This one was like, high 320s. He was like 327, 328, somewhere in there. The other one was like 10 inches bigger, something like that. They're pretty similar bulls.
dude, absolutely incredible. Tell us a little bit. Were you staying in a hotel? Were you camping? Were you sleeping in your truck? And then were you
No,
like, all
so
right, I'm waking up in the morning and we're gonna hit this hillside, or how'd that all play
yeah,
out?
yeah. So this one here, it's actually kind of a unique deal. I hunt this spot with my dad and my uncle every year. My cousin tagged along this year as well. We actually uh pay a small trespass fee to be able to go through private into some public that we can. Excuse me, sorry about that. Phone was going off. So we pay a small trespass fee to be able to access through private. It's like on a week to week basis. It's all public that you can absolutely get to it. We've hunted it from the other side as well. It's just like a 3 or 4 mile hike up into, versus this way we can just kind of go through and hunt it from the other side. So this one's kind of a unique situation that we go the same week every year, or I guess last 3 years I should say. And so we actually just stay on that property in an super old cabin. So it's kind of a cool, little bit more I won't say laid back, because it's, it's still physical as far as the hunting goes, but like we're staying in a cool old cabin instead of roughing it on the ground for a week and stuff. So it's kind of a unique one for us, but yeah, it's pretty cool.
I love it. It has that traditional like deer camp vibe, right? Where
It yeah. Yep. You pull up in the evening and you hope that the other pickup's not there, because if it is, that means they're not packing out a bowl type thing. So yeah, no, it really does have that kind of vibe to it.
yeah. Oh, that's so awesome. So you went about smashing on your elk in September. Then it seems like it's in the blood with you, and your wife is a slayer also. How many different hunts kills were you a part of this year? You shot your bull,
Mm.
you had your spring bear. Did you shoot a fall bear?
I did not shoot a fall bear. I shot a spring bear in Idaho, and I was part of two other bear kills in Idaho, one in Montana. Shot a handful of turkey. Well, I shot two turkeys, but was with some other folks in the spring. And then I'm trying to think. Oh, so my elk, and then opening day of rifle, I went out with a real good buddy, and he shot a really nice 6 point with me on opening morning. So that was another cool. Kind of happened right away. We didn't really know what to expect. It was foggy, but we were just going to go out, give it our all. It was opening morning and ended up shooting a really nice 6 point. So that was really fun to be laying next to him on that one. And then deer season was just it's kind of a whirlwind. We went to Colorado. I went with Born and Raised Outdoors and some huntingful folks to Colorado, and we all did very well down there. It was third season, first time hunting Colorado for myself and for a lot of the folks I was with. Didn't really know what to expect, and every day just got better and better. And that's what some folks with experience down there said, like, "Hey, be the last one with the tag," or just wait, because every day is going to get better and better. And so that hunt was super cool. It was really mountainous, high elevation. It was definitely more physically challenging than what I originally anticipated it being. I'm just more used to mule deer hunting like central eastern Montana, where, yeah, like you can put on a lot of miles and hike up and down coulees and stuff, but you're not making 1,000 foot pull. You're not really up in the mountains per se. So, um, yeah, it was challenging. It took us a few days to get acclimated and to figure out how to be successful in a completely new area. But once we figured it out and every day got a little better, we started filling tags like every day. So that was a super fun hunt.
Is that going to be a part of the Land of the Free series?
Yeah, yep. So that'll be after. I don't know if it'll be quote unquote Land of the Free series, but it will be a series that Born and Raised will put on their YouTube. I'm not sure, but within the next month or two, probably, I think it'll be up.
Okay, sweet. I'm looking at your mule deer right here, and I am just like, it had all the junk in the trunk that you would ever want from a buck. Did that inside spread hit 28?
So outside, he was like 29 and a half with the kicker. Inside beam was like 25
Okay.
for like the beam, like what you get credit for.
Dude,
Was
for the longest time getting into hunting, you're like, oh, dude, I don't even understand the whole measurement thing. And as you start, being around different animals, you get an idea of like what the inches mean. That is almost a once in a lifetime buck that you shot, man.
Yeah, he was super cool. He was my best buck. And honestly, it was on day 7, last day of the hunt. We were headed back to the wall tent to go tear it down and hit the road. We had like a 26-hour drive, 24-hour drive. Long ways to get back home. And I needed to get back to eastern Montana for my mule deer hunt the next week. So we I just completely accepted the fact that I was going to be the only one in camp essentially that didn't fill their tag. And honestly, I was completely fine with it. Like my cup was very full, being with those guys in just the week, spent in a wall tent, hunting some incredible country, being a part of a few other bucks getting shot. Like it was so cool, and I was completely content. Like, of course, I'd be lying if I didn't say like, yeah, that's the goal is to go down there and fill a tag, right? But I was content, like I was good, and we were on our way back to camp, and that's when we spotted this buck. So, yeah, to go from like, yeah, Colorado is awesome, but I didn't fill a tag, and that's okay, to that's the best deer I've ever shot in seconds was pretty crazy.
With you've been in the hunting game for quite some time. You've hunted, you have a lot of experience. What type of mindset do you have before a hunt? Are you like, all right, dude, I can't wait. I'm gonna be feeling a tag, or I'm gonna be seeing lots of animals, or what type do you like not psych yourself up or manifest
No,
anything?
I think for me, it's definitely evolved and changed. And then I also think each hunt is different. So for like elk, typically, if I'm archery hunting elk, it's I want to get and fill the freezer. I don't really care if it's a 300-inch bull or a 240 bull. Like I don't, that's not really the goal for mule deer. I've grown up hunting mule deer and I've shot a lot of deer, and I'm not really as interested in just like finding a buck and putting my tag on him. I'm more interested in like finding the buck that gets me excited. Now I don't care if that's a 6, 7 year old 25-inch heavy 2x2. Like I don't like care about inches, just a mature deer that gets me excited. So I think for me, for deer, it's a little bit different where I just going into a hunt, I wouldn't say I psych myself up, but what I do tell myself is like I'm gonna hunt as hard as possibly can for the duration of the hunt. And if I find the buck that I want to kill, awesome. And if I don't, like that's okay as long as I hunted hard. I I've been upset with myself on a couple hunts because you leave, you don't fill a tag, and it's not because I didn't fill a tag, but it's because like, yeah, there was a couple days I could have hunted harder, or
Mm,
the weather was super cold and I quit early, or this or that. But as long as I'm personally hunting hard and like putting forth the effort that I think is like max, like if I don't kill one, that's completely fine.
yeah. Dude, that's awesome. Okay, I want to ask a question regarding Onyx and your Colorado trip. So you said that you've never been to this location, right?
Yep.
You're hunting with Hunting Fool, you're hunting with Born and Raised Outdoors. How much e-scouting did you do prior to this, and who picked the spot? Right? Or was it like, hey, do you
Yeah.
think like this is a good draw? Or because you were saying it was new terrain and all that. Can you explain that?
Totally. So we used honestly, we relied a lot on Hunting Fool and their expertise. One of the individuals there has hunted that unit before, so we had some firsthand knowledge going into it. Now we e-scouted once we figured out where we were going to go, and I know we'll dive into this later, but using top rut straw odds, we figured out okay, I have 2 points, so and so has three. We want to draw for sure this year. It wasn't like, yeah, let's put in for unit if we draw sweet. Like we wanted to hunt Colorado, so we put in for a lesser quote unquote unit. So we knew we should draw it. But once we figured out the units we were hunting, we all kind of spent some time e-scouting, and that's what I always recommend people doing is like you and I can jump on a Zoom call and e-scout together, and that might be beneficial. But if you e-scout and then I e-scout and then we come together and look at each other's stuff, and it's like, hey man, here's where this is where my head was when I marked this drainage and this glassing point. We might have the same stuff, just confirming that we both like it, or we might be thinking completely different of each other. Um, so we all kind of separately e-scouted, and I wouldn't say like it's not like we spent hours and hours and hours e-scouting, but from the time we drew the tag to the time we went, like I definitely spent 3 4 hours looking at maps and probably more than that honestly with the whole like oh I just got out of a meeting and I have 20 minutes until another phone call I got to take, like I'm just going to hop on and scroll around and familiarize myself with the unit and drop a waypoint on glassing points and parking locations and so on and so forth. So it was probably more than that honestly, but it wasn't like I took an entire day and just focused on e-scouting.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, were you scouting an entire unit, a game management unit, or were you guys already narrowed down into an area and then more or less looking at hillsides and
So
terrain
we
features?
could actually hunt several units. Some, same as in Montana, if you draw one tag, sometimes you can hunt the adjacent units or whatever. So there was a lot of potential. For me, yeah, we had a few starting points. But what I mostly looked for was areas to like cross off the map almost. Like it was really mountainous. There was a lot of really timbered areas, like, it might be conducive to going and calling a fired up bull in September in. But for rifle hunting mule deer, if I go hike into you know, an area that's super timbered, like it's just not it's not going to be playing to our strengths. Like, yeah, you might go find a giant buck in there and shoot him in the timber, but you're going to be walking around trying to see through little, pin gaps of trees and stuff. And so I did before really honing in on where we wanted to go is like, okay, where do we not want to go?
Mm.
And then of course you get there, everything looks different. And within a day or two of driving around and kind of quote unquote scouting the unit, but hunting, you learn pretty quick like what's possible and what's not.
Interesting. Do you find yourself when you're comparing e-scouting with another person, uh, that they do that strategy as well? I haven't really thought about that before. Like, where do I not want to go versus where do I want to go?
Yeah, I get maybe I haven't heard that, but in my mind, that's just kind of what makes sense. Because you look at this unit again, for example, there might be 70% of it that I don't want to go
Mm.
because you're going to be kind of wasting your time. So let's find the areas that you don't want to go, cross that off, or at least in your mind, make a mental note of, okay, if this area is not burnt and it's this timbered, I'm gonna be what it's not gonna be conducive to what how I want to hunt these deer. I want to hike up to a glassing point and sit all day and be, combing over country with my optics and stuff, instead of just blindlessly hiking through timber, hoping that it opens up enough to possibly see a buck.
Right. There's a difference between hunting smart and hunting hard, and we want to hunt smart and hard, but we don't want to just
Yep.
hunt hard and wear ourselves out where you feel like you're just absolutely beat, and then you just don't see that many animals also, right? Still
Yep.
hunting is great when you can localize a central area, but when you're looking at it miles and miles of terrain, it's like, okay, well, where do we go?
Yep.
It's
Yeah, definitely.
a little overwhelming. So, okay, let's get back on this train of all these animals that you killed. So you killed a monster mule deer. You ended up shooting just a stud whitetail. That's a whitetail, correct?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, my wife shot a mule deer, and then actually that was the last day. It was the second to last day of season in Montana, but the last day for me hunting before we traveled back home. So yeah, it was the year of last day bucks for me for sure. But yeah, so we shot my buck in Colorado, and literally I broke that buck down as they were taking down the wall tent, and then we hit the road to Montana. As soon as I got to Montana, I repacked my stuff, grabbed the wife and kid, loaded up the vehicle, threw the dog in, and then we drove another 8 hours to eastern Montana to hunt over there for the last week. We go the last week every year. That way we can see friends and family for Thanksgiving, get some hunting in, and so on and so forth. So it was, yeah, I drove straight from Colorado to western Montana, and then the next day drove. So I don't know how many miles it was, but it was the most driving I've ever done in my entire life in like 48 hours.
Dude, and you got a little one. So was grandma and grandpa watching the little one, or were you guys taking him with you?
No, we were gonna take him this year, but grandma and grandpa's ended up watching him the most of the time. We drove around a few times and looked for deer type of stuff, but I think next year, so he is 1.5. Next year, I think it's gonna be a little bit easier to get him out. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And then next year we will also have, a 6-month-old at the time of rifle season. So we're gonna be we're gonna have our hands full.
Congratulations, bro. The Osprey backpacks. Osprey makes little kid carrier packs. Dude,
Yep.
the absolute game changer. Any father who has young children, highly recommend those. I used to do so much scouting and hiking and all sorts of stuff with them, just like right in the pack. Do you have one of
Yeah.
those?
Well, I actually do. I actually do have one of those. I haven't used it a whole lot, but I do have one. I'm excited to use it. How how big can they be though? And ride on that thing is my question.
Oh, how much do you want to carry? I mean, your kids end up,
Well,
you know what I mean? Like, so ultimately, I think the last year that I started pulling my kids out, my oldest stayed in there longer because he didn't have older brothers to stare at that were also walking. So he
Okay.
he rode in there through like, 3.5, 4, depending on like I'd wear the backpack. Sometimes I'd take him out, let him walk, then put him in and do that.
Yep.
My youngest, he actually got out of it at like 2.5 because his older brothers were always on the ground on the move and he wanted to be down there with him. So, but it's a good investment, especially if you're having multiple kids. And congratulations, by the way. That's
Thank you.
nothing like
Yeah, we're
another red-blooded American to add to the mix.
yep, we're excited. And so yeah, we'll have two boys running around about 2 years apart. So hopefully in about, I don't know, 12, 13, 14, 15 years, they can pack my elk out and then I can start packing their elk out.
Yes, yes. I had the opportunity this year. I shared this on a different episode of the podcast, but I took my oldest boy out, and he shot his very first deer, very first like animal. Um, Super awesome. But the moment that we got to eat his deer for dinner, and all of us ate it, dude, talk about an absolute game changer as far as like a mindset of like, wow, I'm not just the provider for my family. My boy did this. And words don't really even describe how special that was. And I can't wait for you to have that opportunity as well because it's something else.
That's yeah, that's super cool. I can't wait. Actually, obviously he didn't harvest it, but the other night we were at at the dinner table eating elk burger and spaghetti or something like that. And I pointed up to the wall to the bowl that he was eating up on the wall, and I'm like, "Yeah, that's the bowl you're eating, buddy." And he like looks at the bowl and just lets out a perfect bugle. So I'm
Yes.
hoping it's in his blood.
Yes. I love it. Yeah, my middle kid, he loves to hit those high notes. He'll grab my bugle tube and just like, dang,
Yep.
bro, get it. All right, Dylan, let's shift gears here for a second. Onyx has been on the move, man. You guys, the hunting world, either you got to evolve or you're going to get left behind. And Onyx, being a leader in the hunting industry, has always pushed the limits, and people have always copied you guys with what you've been doing. They what does they say? Imitation is the what? No,
Best form of
is
flattery.
the best form of flattery. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. So, I mean, the fact that Onyx is starting to get quote unquote a lot more competition now within the mapping space and all that is cool for you guys because it's honoring that you guys are pushing the limits. At the same time, it's a business, and you always want to make sure you're getting more customers. So Onyx is making some moves, and I know over the last calendar year, you guys started to partner up with different organizations such as Hunting Fool and Top Rut. However, I know I've gone on Top Rut before in the past, and just different things like it's not one of the first things I think of when I'm
Yeah.
scouting or looking for tags and all that. What is Onyx doing that goes along with that elite membership and all the benefits that are coming along with it? And what do we get to look for in the future?
Yeah, definitely. And so, the elite membership as a whole, it used to be okay, we have two options. You have a premium membership if you only hunt a single state, if you never hunt out of state, if you're not looking to acquire tags out of state, here's your premium. If you hunt more than one state, here's your elite. You got all 50 states. As you said though, with the elite membership now, we're not starting, we are continuing to provide more and more value to that. So for example, that Hunt and Full membership that you mentioned, as an Onyx Hunt Elite member, you get all 50 states, but then you get really cool exclusive discounts and free services like the Hunt and Full digital membership. So you just get that with the elite membership. We partnered with Top Rut a couple years ago to provide draw odds, a free membership to draw odds to all elite customers. And we actually acquired Top Rut not too long ago. So we now just brought everything in house. Excuse me, brought everything in house. It's now Top Rut draw odds, by Onyx Hunt. So just streamlining that system. We've got some pretty cool plans in the works for rebuilding and adding to that system as far as draws go. But we at Onyx, we've realized like eggs are getting harder and harder to get every year. You can see it within your home state, within a lot of different states. You name it, they're not getting easier. No tags are ever getting easier to get. So as a part of that, we want our customers to be able to obtain the tags and to go hunt and go experience the things that we love to do out in the hunting woods. And a huge part of that is now and has been honestly odds. Like, what are my odds of hunting Colorado next year? What are my odds of hunting moose, sheep, or goat if I continue to apply for the hardest draw tags versus the easiest? So on and so forth. So, in doing so, we worked with Top Rep for a couple years. We found it to really benefit our customers.
Hmm.
So we move forward with acquiring them. But that's two examples of the elite benefits. There's so many more. Um, from discounted gear, Vortex Optics. If you're an elite member, you've got discounts on Vortex Optics, on Exo packs, Shanae's boots, you name it. Like there's so much on there that people honestly aren't taking advantage of. As an elite member, you just get that value added for free.
It's so cool to hear that, and I think that's one of the things that needs to make sure it gets pushed out a whole lot more is I have been members of different groups online, more or less like a Costco, but for hunters and outdoors.
Yeah.
There's
Yep.
one called Leo Adventures. So being a public employee, I was a member of Leo Adventures, cost $35 a year, and that's how I ended up getting a lot of my camo at the beginning because I was like, oh, I can get Sitka at a discounted price back when I was wearing Sitka, and I was like, oh, perfect. The issue is not many people know about it. You have to promote it and talk about it. And so when you guys are saying, we have a whole lot of stuff that can benefit you, it's all sorts of stuff, whether it's camo, optics. Well, shoot, I'm gonna go down the list right now. Let's see here. Go to onxmaps.com, click on hunt, and then what is it, merch shop or is it master classes?
No,
What are we going to?
so elite member benefits. So if you Google Onyx Hunt Elite benefits, should land on the page. There's a couple different ways to get there, but honestly, this is the easiest route is to Google Onyx Hunt Elite benefits, and then you can pull it up. So, I mean, obviously, we're geared a little bit more toward Western big game,
Uh-huh.
but we have so much for upland, for whitetail, for waterfowl, and so on and so forth. Did you find that page there?
I sure did. Yep.
Perfect.
Then log in. Bam. There we go. Access elite benefit. Yes, sir. I will access that. Yeah, I love it. So we got, what is it? I'm looking at all the different stores right now. So you got First Light, FHF, Phelps, Game Call. Um, Did you have a lot of different stuff?
Yeah, I mean, lacrosse, Bushnell trail cams, RCBS, reloading, silencer central suppressors, meat for your after, grinders and stuff like that, hunt reminder, peak refuel meals. Yeah, there's a ton of stuff. And I think, well, I don't think, I know they're very underutilized. So if you do have that elite membership and you're listening, check it out. Like, you get free access to a lot of cool stuff, including the draw odds now, obviously with Top Rep. But yeah, just a ton of discounts, and really, you can, if you use that effectively and you buy, if you're like me and you buy new gear almost every year, even though you probably don't need it, you're going to pay for that elite membership in and of itself with the discounts that you're going to save.
Mm.
So it's a no brainer.
All right, so I'm on Top Rut. I went through Onyx and typed in Top Rut and all that stuff, and it takes you to a new login page. I'm actually having issues with this. I'm an elite member.
Mm-hmm.
However, it is saying my elite membership has expired. Renew with Onyx today. Is this? Do you guys ever come across a lot of these issues, or do you get? I know your customer service is pretty phenomenal as far as
Yeah, no,
supporting
they're
people.
awesome. Honestly, no. What it might be is the fact that I give you that elite membership. Like, there
Mm,
might be a disconnect there. So I can definitely help you out with that, or make sure that you're logging in with the same, with the one that I've given you, and so on and so forth. But yeah, typically there's not an issue. For the average customer, like if you just log in with the same email and password as you do your Onyx membership, that's how you get access to that top row.
sweet, sweet. All right, so let's talk about Top Rut. Um, and shoot, I feel like, do we mention other companies' names or just kind of keep it to ourselves? No, let's keep it to ourselves.
Yeah, we honestly, I mean, we competition is more and more. We at OnX, like we do pay attention to competition. Competition is great because it pushes us to be better, and ultimately it makes the customer wins because we're pushed to be more innovative and quicker and everything as well. So, but as far as like, we really just try and focus on what we do to the best of our abilities and don't get caught up too much in, such and such is doing this and so did that. Like,
Mhm.
we just want to provide the best product that we can to our customers, and that's kind of our mentality with competition.
I love it. Stay in your lane, right? Master your craft and then just don't worry about it. Okay, when it comes to Top Rut, dive into this for us. Explain the draw odds and how you find. I have 3 points with antelope and mule deer in Wyoming, and at some point I'm going to be going up there. Um, some people I've heard from people say, "Oh, you don't need to stack up a bunch of points to go there to hunt." The other people say, "Oh, you're going to need quite a few points before that." So I'm going to be relying on Top Rut here in the next year or so to dive into that. So can you explain how to go about using Top Rut?
Yeah, so Top Rut, we are going to be not rebuilding, but streamlining a few things on it, so it will look different within the next year. But essentially, you can go on there and pick what state. So you would just select Wyoming, you would select resident or non-resident. And if you're looking at, say, an archery permit, then you can select. There's just a lot of filters that get you to what you want, where you want to be, and then you would put in 3 points for how many points you have, and then you can filter the units by the unit numbers, by percentage of public land. Um, there's quite a few different ways to filter what you're looking for there. So, it'll spit it out in a table format of, okay, here's your odds for all these units for what you have selected. But then you can filter by, okay, I want to show the hardest to draw tags to the least and sort it by that and so on and so forth. So, yeah, there's so much that goes into draw odds, man. Like, every state is so different. What's the difference between a preference point and a bonus point in this state? Like, there's so many nuanced differences, that it can get really complex. And Top Rut's one of those tools that can help simplify and actually get you the info that you need.
I love that. I've always been intrigued by this concept. When there are things like Top Rut that are helping you to identify where the animals are at, where the high quality animals are at, draw odds, all this stuff. Do you think, and this is just an opinion question, I don't expect any scientific answer. Do you think eventually it'll shift? Like certain units end up getting so backed up on draw odds because of these different applications that'll actually allow the animals to sprout up in different units and be more successful?
Yeah, I don't think that's too far out of the question. And I think it's a little bit less like tools like Top Rut, where it just shows you statistically where you're able to draw. And it's a little more like, you've got a TV show. If
Hmm.
you go hunt Colorado and blast the unit that you hunted and you guys absolutely crushed it, and then, X number of thousands of people watch that and they're interested in Colorado, like, why wouldn't they go hunt there?
Right.
Like, they know the spot. They know it was wildly successful, and these are all hypotheticals, obviously, but um, with that type of information, I think people are more likely to blow up certain units and conglomerate there than like a, hey, here's statistically what your odds are for how many points you have. But yeah, it's definitely likely.
Being someone who's a hunter and a lifetime hunter versus working at a technology company that is constantly pushing the limits to support people on making hunting I wouldn't say easier. I don't think that's the correct term. Like more successful, allow people to overcome barriers to entry or barriers to success a whole lot more. Do you ever find yourself with like a moral struggle of like, oh man,
You
because
know,
the whole idea of blowing spots up, right?
yeah, no, I totally understand the question, and it's a good question. I don't, because I know how we are going about things. Like, The thing with OnX is, and we've been asked this question a few times, or we've heard the whole like, "Hey, I used to have a couple really good honey holes. Now with OnX showing the easement layer to get into it is, blown up with people and it's not a honey hole anymore." But then that same person has also found another 5 spots because of OnX. So,
Mhm.
like, it's I get the question for sure, but I morally do not ever have a dilemma because of how we're going about it. We're not like highlighting certain units and saying like, here's where you're going to be most successful shooting a 180 buck next year,
Yeah.
that type of thing. So I think there's an opportunity to go about it the right and wrong way. And yeah, no, currently there's not been any dilemmas, but I get the question.
I mean, it's just so funny. The I got so in the state of Washington, we have a few different national forests. And each when you're hiking on trails, so I was always a backpacker and I'd hike on trails and then you'd see a sign like, Wild Sky Wilderness or this national forest, so call me, Mount Baker National Forest, and all these different things, and you're like, oh, okay, that's where I'm at. And so I went on a hunt. This is earlier in my career, and I took a picture of a wilderness sign or a national forest sign, and I posted it on Instagram, and I got blown up
It's
for
somebody's
what I mean. They have these signs all over the place, right? It just happened to be the sign that was on the trail, and all it is just a sign. And people are like, "Man, thanks a lot for blowing up our spot." And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe everyone's just a little too
yeah.
sensitive.
No, I think they are, but I also get it. Like I recognized spots I've hunted in other people's YouTube channels or whatever. It's like, man, I literally just hunted that last week. Like, and there's been times like I'm not gonna lie, I have definitely pulled up on X and thrown it in 3D and like looked at the video and then like positioned on X and be like, yep, I know exactly where that's at. Like it's it seems stupid, but it's also, when it's spots that you've been to, I understand the animosity, but um I think people are a little bit too particular about it. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. We get called out on X. It's kind of, I won't say funny because it is people's spots, but we will randomly take screenshots of the map, like complete at random. Like I will, drop a few waypoints in Wyoming in a spot that I've never even stepped foot 1,000 miles from, and just for marketing purposes, like we'll take a screenshot to show the map, and then we'll get somebody email us like, "Hey, thanks a lot for, you know, putting that screenshot on that ad because that's exactly where I hunt elk, and you put an elk waypoint there." And it's like, yeah, we got to show the map somehow. So
No, so I've had that experience. Whether e- every now and then I like to take a screenshot. I make sure it's topo only. I don't do aerial imagery
hide
or
all the
any.
fake names and all that. Yep.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, how do I show this without giving away numbers, all sorts of stuff, but at least still make it educational, right? The whole purpose of Soul Seekers is to educate others and to get new hunters involved. But at the same time, they have to be able to understand how to find animals on a map, right? Like, why
Yep.
is a draw important? Where's a bench and all this stuff? And it's like I posted one time on Instagram, and somebody's like, "Hey," I got a message. They didn't want to comment on the on the post. I sent a
Yeah.
message. Hey, is this my spot from such and such? And I'm like, nope, just a random spot that I just selected because I'm trying to
Yeah.
find
We
obscure stuff.
we do a lot of how to e-scout videos as well.
Hmm.
Like, both we do and our ambassadors do. And that's one thing we typically call out and we tell our ambassadors to call out is like in the beginning of the video, just say, hey, this is a complete random spot. I've never hunted this. I never planned to. I'm doing it for like, demonstration purposes only. Like this isn't to blow up a unit or to pick a unit that is incredibly hard to draw. So like Montana, there's a couple mule deer units that are really, really hard to draw. You may never draw them. So if I'm going to show how to e-scout for mule deer in Montana, I might pick one of those units because odds are that's nobody's mule deer spot. And if it is, it was a once in a lifetime tag, they probably don't care anymore.
Hmm. Right, man, so wild. I love it. Technology is helpful in so many ways, and yet people are so sensitive. Like, ooh, get their feelings hurt. I understand when it comes to like a lifestyle of hunting. People put so much energy and effort into this 1 week or however long it is that they get for that opportunity, and yet competition breeds success, right?
Yeah.
And I remember having a conversation. I think it was with Steve Speck and Mark Hulsing on the Exo Mountain Gear podcast a couple years ago, and they're like, "Well, mentorship as conservation is great, but when I'm in on a hunt and the hillsides litter with orange, like that doesn't make me feel good as a hunter." And I was like, "Well, competition breeds success. Maybe I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it's not a perfect world. Do you want hunting to last for generations to come, or do you want it just to be about you and the animal and you kill?"
Yep,
So,
I think that's the debate, not the debate, but that's another really tough question that I wouldn't be able to answer. It's like, what's better? All you see is people and, no animals, you're gonna be like, "Man, I wish there wasn't as many people in the woods," but in order for hunting to carry on and, to be around in the same form in the next, 50, 100 years, whatever that looks like, we also have to get people activated in hunting and showing them and teaching them. And I know that's a huge part of what you do and why you do it. And I love it. Um, and yeah, I can see both sides at least, like I don't want to run into 12 other guys when I'm out elk hunting, but I also understand it. That's 12 other guys trying to do the same thing I'm doing.
yep, yep. It's well, that's why they call it a sport, right? You are competing. You're not. Sometimes you're competing against yourself. Sometimes against the animal. Sometimes against other hunters. It's wild. Hey, is there anything that we did not cover that you want to touch on as far as what's happening with Onyx in the future this coming year?
No, no, I think that covered a lot of it. I would just say again, like if you are not taking advantage of those elite perks that you have with that elite membership, definitely check them out. Even if you're not somebody who buys a lot of gear and you're not looking to save money because you're not spending it, just for the Hunt and Full digital membership, and then the draw odds, hunt reminders, and other free ones. So you can go in there and say, okay, I'm interested in these species, these states, and then get a notification to your phone, an email saying, hey, Wyoming non-resident elk application is open. You can now apply. Hey, there's 1 week left. Hey, there's 24 hours left. Don't miss it. So there are some free deals as well for that elite membership. So yeah, check them out. They're underutilized, and I know everybody who dives into those is very happy.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. All right, here's a question for you. You're about to be a father of two coming up. I know you can't foresee the future. You don't know what it's like to have multiple kids now and all that. Well, how far in advance do you start planning for your hunts? And what is this coming year going to look like for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. So this year was a great year. Last year, I was down on like hunt days in the field and stuff. I still got out and hunted, but was not a great year. Last year was first year in quite a while. I didn't shoot a bull. I just kind of felt like I won't say my head wasn't in it, but it's the first year of being a father, and I was trying to balance that whole like how much time should I spend away? My wife, was and currently is working full time as well. So not only is she taking care of our son while I'm gone on hunts, but she's working full time and just super busy. And so it was a kind of a balancing act that I was trying to figure out. This year, I got out quite a bit more. Next year's kind of back to the drawing boards of two. Now she is going to be at home with our kids at that time, so I think that will help a little bit as far as me being able to go on hunts and not feel quite as guilty. But yeah, it's I'm starting to plan now. It's like I plan on doing one out of state hunt next year. I don't know whether it's Wyoming elk or I don't know what it is, but that's my goal, is to try and do like one out of state hunt a year and not overdo it. Because if I do multiple out of state hunts plus all my Montana stuff, um, it just gets too much. And that doesn't count like if I go to Idaho and shoot a bear or something like that. I don't really consider that a quote unquote out of state hunt. More like deer, elk, antelope in the fall.
Something that takes like 7 to 10 days of your time.
Yep.
Yep,
Yep,
yeah,
exactly.
for sure. How soon? And obviously, this was a part of that question, but it would play off of if you didn't have the kids, or if it was standard in the past. How soon do you start planning your hunts?
I think that doesn't change regardless. Like I'm starting to plan now.
Mm,
For example, if I've got some Wyoming points for deer, elk, and antelope. I kind of want to do Wyoming elk. That's kind of where my mind's at right now, and that's coming up, quick for non-resident for Wyoming elk. So I need to figure that out before anything else. Like I'm not really planning logistics and details, but it's like, okay, do I want to do Wyoming elk next year? Yes, okay, I need to apply for that. Am I going to apply where I think for sure I'll get a tag and just plan on kind of like Colorado last year where like we want to hunt Colorado? Or am I going to apply for something that I won't know for several months? Um, so I don't have anything really set in stone, minus the Montana stuff that I do every year. But I would say like right now in the next like month or two, I'm definitely planning what my upcoming season is going to look like.
yeah, yeah, I get it. The draw odds, once you can start getting into drawing tags out of state, it really changes the game. You know, back when I was like, oh, I'm only hunting Washington because I want to learn how to hunt in my home state before I like really branch out. And
Yep.
then, you're like, okay, well, if I draw a special tag, it's only going to be during the season. But now when I'm talking and I'm looking at my board for season 4 of Soul Seekers, and it's talking Idaho spring bear, Utah archery elk, Washington fall bear, different hunts. It's like it takes a lot of coordinating and a lot of effort and energy. And shout out to my wife, and because she also works full time. It's like how do we navigate all of this in order for me to fulfill my soul and my desires and my wants, and then also to make sure we're taking care of our children and working around my wife's schedule and that she gets time off as well. So your wife hunts. So does she have a drive to hunt, or is it more something that she does, or does she like to actually take time off to go hunting?
Yeah, I mean, she definitely hunts. Like she hunts with me every year for deer. She enjoys going, but she's not taking, a week off to go on a hunt of her own or anything like that. Like,
Yeah.
if I hunt 20 days a year for deer, she's getting out 5 with me. So it's kind of a good balance. Like it fills her cup and it works for both of us. Let's just put it that way.
Dude, uncharted territories, bro. You're about to get into it. I'm gonna have
Yep.
to, Dylan. You're gonna have to come down here and hang out with me in Texas. I just picked up. So one of the cool things about Texas, and you can do this in a lot of other states. We actually in season 1 of Soul Seekers did a thermal predator hunting episode. I
Mhm.
just picked up my very first thermal optic, and I decided I was like, oh, let's go out in the backyard last night and take a look around. Saw a bunch of jackrabbits out in the field. Actually, even saw a fox about a
Yeah.
hundred yards away from my back porch. I was like, oh, excellent. We're gonna have to get you down to Texas and do a little thermal hunting. Go smash on some
That would be
hogs
fun.
and well, all the nightlife. That's the fun
Yeah.
nightlife. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that would be cool. Count me in.
Yes, we'll put that on the books. All right, Dylan, you're a stud. Thank you, brother, for being on this podcast. Thanks for supporting the show. Thanks for supporting Soul Seekers and everything that we do. Guys, go check out Dylan's Instagram. You can see the monster animals he's been killing and his family lays down at dylan.hunter.dowson. And I'll have a link to his account in the show notes. Also, if you're not a member of Onyx, go sign up. You can get Dylan, is it 2 weeks? A 14-day trial?
So 7-day, 1 week trial. And then yeah, we got the premium membership, $30 a year, elite membership, $100 a year, and that comes with all the elite benefits that we talked about.
Yes, totally worth it. You are never going to be like, oh man, I wish I wouldn't have spent this money because I know a lot of like real estate agents that use this. I know a guy who we mentored on one of his first hunts. He sold windows and doors, and he ended up using Onyx as information before he would approach landowners and be like, hey, would you like to buy some of this
Yep.
stuff? So many different things. Um, truly, truly phenomenal product. I really support it and believe in it. So, guys, thank you so much for tuning in this episode. I hope you had a Merry Christmas, as this is going to be coming out the day after on the 26th. And then we're going to be bumping into 2023 the next time you hear this podcast, which is absolutely incredible. We have to break it in with a Happy New Year's and all of that. I'm Johnny Mac. Be blessed. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Don't forget to go check out our show on Carbontv at Soul Seekers with season 1 and season 2. Season 3 is going to be coming out in 2023, and a whole lot more content for all of you guys. Be blessed, freedom on, and stay soulful. If you enjoyed today's podcast and want to support the show, you can always like, share, subscribe, and leave a rating, as it helps us share our mission of mentorship is conservation. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of Soul Seekers Nation as we transform lives through primal adventure. If you want to get more connected with the podcast, check out the Soul Seekers Nation Facebook group, as I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. So stay tuned and stay soulful.